Joining us now for our TV showrunners panel is Prentice Penny for Insecure on HBO. I am Marcus James Dixon, senior editor at Gold Derby. And Prentice, before we talk about this past season, I wanted to give you a huge congrats on the Emmy Awards. Insecure had 8 nominations overall, including Best Comedy Series, and it won for Best Picture Editing. So what was that whole Emmy experience like for you?
Weird, but good. I mean, we have been doing the show for 4 years. And again, you're not ever making a show from that perspective, but it's certainly good certainly as a person of color. I mean, you certainly want your art to feel, validated is the wrong word, but just seen as equal to, you know what I mean? And our humanity and our art to be viewed the same. And so I think in a time when, obviously there was a lot of things happening this year, around that time. And so it was just different and special in a myriad of ways.
And much of season 4 dealt with the falling out of the friendship between Issa and Molly, Issa Rae and Yvonne Orji, who both got Emmy nominations.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little about that storyline and how challenging it was to execute over the whole season? Because it was a slow progression of this friendship kind of, ending.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like anything, like you're trying to build one season on top of the next, right? And so I think one thing that we, Issa and Molly, we sort of always say that's the true love story in the show. And so I think we were feeling like, well, these are two friends who are who are at 30. And we wanted to address the thing of it's kind of like that friend that like knows where all the bodies are buried in your life. And there's a beauty in that, right? Which is like, they can support you and there's a shorthand, but there's also a difficult part of that as you're trying to grow and blossom that people remember who you were and sometimes won't let you be who you need to be, right? And so we liked sort of playing on that example. They've been friends since they were 18 and now they're 30. And is this a friend that's going to be around for a season or is this a friend that's just around for a reason? And that was kind of a theme for all the relationships, whether it was Lawrence, whether it was, like Nathan, whether it was Andrew, we just wanted to play with all of those things. And so it was a dangerous thing because that's the heartbeat of our show, but it was exciting to be like, well, what would it be like if they were having problems? Like, what would it be like? And so it was a fun thing to explore, but super scary. But that's usually where the great stuff and the fun stuff comes from when you're just like, I don't know, should we do this? But it was exciting to see it play out.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had friends that we've lost in our lives, but their friendship really did feel special. And the last moment of the season, I think it was them kind of talking. We don't hear what they're saying, but
Yeah.
Do you think there is a future for Molly and Issa?
I hope so. We're writing it, so I hope so. Yeah, I think there is. I think like that's what we're trying to show is that this is a friendship for a reason in a lifetime, and that's the fun part of exploring that in season 5 is how do they come back from this, and that because that's was the other thing that was exciting too, right? It was like, okay, well, if we blow this thing up, how do you repair it? And that's been the fun thing of breaking season 5 because it is like, oh, how do you kind of come back? And so, I certainly believe there is, and so we'll see.
Another big story in season 4 was Issa and Lawrence, Jay Ellis kind of rekindling their romance, but it didn't end as a happy love story with a pretty bow on it. In the finale, there was this pregnancy twist that he got somebody else pregnant, and fans were very shocked and saddened. And where do you see this going? Without spoiling anyone, can they move on from here?
I think that's the thing we wanted to explore, right? Which is like that's a big theme for us in season 5, which is when you're in your 20s, you sort of feel like, okay, I know how my life is supposed to go. I know how I'm going to, end up by 28, I'm going to be here. By 35, I'm going to be here. And you kind of get into your 30s and you're like, oh, okay, well, this sort of roadmap maybe that I laid out isn't going according to plan. And like, can I adjust? If life doesn't look like how I thought, is that okay? If my dream has the parts that I think are important, but it's not exactly the way I thought, is that okay? And so that's what we're exploring this season with that storyline of this. She and Lawrence have sort of been the main couple, sort of obviously in the show from a boy-girl perspective. And so we wanted to dirty Lawrence up a little bit, could she accept that? And so that's a fun thing to be discussing now. But Yeah, it was definitely a challenging thing in the room to talk about.
And I love the way that scene was edited, where it's him telling Issa, and then we see flashbacks of Condola telling him, and it was just really well done.
Thank you.
And speaking of next season, Insecure, it does exist in our world, so I'm assuming we will see masks and social distancing next season. And I'm curious, how will the Issa character react if I'm right? You're shaking your head.
Yeah, we're not trying to really play it like that.
Okay.
I don't think we're coming on till the fall. So, I don't know if we're not really writing in that way. We're sort of, I think we've always tried to make Insecure exist in this sort of like, certainly our world, but like a tiny bit adjacent. So like even when Obama was in office and even when Trump took office, we never wanted to give like those people like actual names. Like we would always say like in this climate or here, where we are today, and allude to what's in the world, but never like actually like say the thing. And so we're trying to treat COVID the same way, which is like, by this time, next year when the show is on, are people really going to want to,
Right.
see that? And I think one thing that really empowered us that way was when when everything was going on with George Floyd, it happened to be the same week that we were airing the Issa Lawrence dinner episode and the hangout. And one of the things that we were really nervous about was, hey, all this stuff is going on. Like us having this TV show seems super irrelevant and like not important at all that what's going on in the world. And we had written this letter saying like, hey, we know what's going on, but hopefully like you can enjoy these 30 minutes of the show. What was so great about that episode coming on at that particular week was it was an episode about two Black people falling in love again and being in love. And people loved the reprieve from having to have everything that was in our face in that moment, and certainly things that we need to address as a country, but to have 30 minutes where we can sort of just watch Black people in their humanity, be in love, care for each other without the specter of all the other stuff, we realized how relevant it actually was. And so we're trying to embrace that spirit as we've written the season, as just in general of like let our show kind of be a reprieve of that. So we allude to like what's going on into the world, but we're not trying to like fully have people be in mass. But sometimes we have people on Zooms and things like that. So it's peppered, but we never try to like let it be hanging over the body of our show.
And another important storyline this season was Tiffanys' postpartum depression, which was revealed to the other characters in the finale, the one that you wrote and directed. Serious topics like this are rarely covered in TV, especially in comedies. So what was it like to tackle this storyline?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we sort of, I think the same way that like what's a comedy now, what's a drama, the lines are super blurred in terms of, and I think in a great way of like what you're allowed to do in television, right? And so for us, we have always tried to talk about the things that we talk about in our community as well, right? And one of the things that gets often overlooked is Black women, certainly in hospitals with doctors, how they deal with pain, certainly Black women with birth. And just sort of how that always gets overlooked. And, Serena Williams kind of brought life to it as like, if I wasn't Serena Williams, like I was treated horribly in the hospital. So I can only imagine what it's like for anybody else. And so we wanted to talk about that. And in a world where typically in other shows, Black women have to always have it handled and have it together and sort of, always be Olivia Pope on the moment, that we wanted to have a character that it weirdly in our show is that character, right? Like Amanda plays that Tiffany character always so tightly, put together in an amazing way. And we wanted to see what is it like for that character to not have an outlet, to not have a place to speak, to not have when that sort of is put upon you to have that role and you kind of have that break. And so that's just sort of where it was coming from.
And before we go, I wanted to give a shout out to my favorite scene, Kelly's British accent. It was so funny. I could watch a whole season of that.
That was it's always fun to get like Natasha, who's like does so much stuff. I think we were just in the room and we were just like, Kelly should try to catfish Amanda. She's British. And Natasha does a great accent. And it like whether she's getting tased at Coachella or speaking in a British accent, I'm excited to see what you guys will see what we're doing with her this year. But she's just an amazing actress and so funny. So you could give her anything, and I'd watch her watch a wall, and it'd be great.
Well, awesome. Thank you for chatting with us, Prentice. We will see you in a little bit.
Thank you.